We have a special guest joining us today to talk through the news. Max Fisher, welcome back.
Oh, thanks, man. Well, what a pleasure to be here. Well, you keep having these cherished auteur filmmakers on, I assume to entice me back to the show, and it worked.
Got to do a second season of Movie Club. How's Brooklyn? Are there any privately owned bodegas left?
They've all been seized by Zoran.
Yeah,
that's right.
He already seized the means.
I have joined the Zoran Red Guards, and I'm seizing the movie theaters because they're showing too many Marvel movies, and we need to take them back for the people. No, I haven't seen Eddington yet because we've been in the middle of nowhere in upstate New York to ride out the heat. There's one movie theater here. It has one screen, and they're not playing Eddington. They're playing 1985's Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
I love that movie.
I do. Well, we've seen it 7 times, so this is the place for you.
I used to be very scared at the Large Marge part.
It's scary. Tim Burton is scary.
Yeah, that was a scary part, but I saw that movie many times as a child. Anyway.
Here we are doing Movie Club.
Absolutely nothing has improved since you left. AI keeps advancing.
What the hell? I thought you were on it.
AI keeps advancing at breakneck speed with no regulation, but fear not, Donald Trump is on it. He announced his AI action plan last week at a summit hosted by who else? The All In podcast. It's a plan that will help speed the construction of gorgeous data centers all across America, just as God intended. And most importantly, Trump signed an executive order that bans the federal government from contracting with any AI company whose technology, quote, has been infused with partisan bias or ideological agendas. That's right, Max. We're getting rid of woke AI. That's what the executive order says. Preventing woke AI. What is woke AI, you may ask? The AI companies must somehow prove to the government that their chatbots do not incorporate, quote, concepts like critical race theory, transgenderism, unconscious bias, intersectionality, and systemic racism. No word on whether the chatbots are allowed to call themselves Mecha Hitler and act like Nazis, which happened a few weeks ago with Elon Musk's Grok.
I was going to say the EO is working.
Here's Trump talking about his EO.
The American people do not want woke Marxist lunacy in the AI models, and neither do other countries. They don't want it. They don't want anything to do with it. That's why on day one, I very proudly terminated Joe Biden's order on woke AI effective immediately. You don't have any of those crazy rules. Crazy rules.
I didn't realize that Joe Biden was forcing AI to be woke.
I know. We must have been off that week.
Famously tech savvy, woke Joe Biden.
I think he was in there. He was in the data centers, right? Reprogramming the AIs personally to be woker.
What do you make of all this? First of all, how do you even police the answers that come from what's already on the internet, which is what AI is currently?
Right.
It also feels like a First Amendment violation, though I realize the Constitution is more of a suggestion than anything else at this point. I don't know. What do you think?
Yeah, it's very, I had the exact same reaction to you. It's very Trump second term, and that it is simultaneously the dumbest thing you've ever heard that seems like it's just, signaling on behalf of MAGA. Very easy to laugh at. Like, there's literally a rule in the executive order that says that any Vikings generated by AI have to be white. Like, that's the thing that we're legislating now. But at the same time is also maybe intentionally or just through blundering represents an enormous potential or at least attempted attack on free speech in the country. I mean, this really reminds me of the Trump FCC threatening to withhold licenses for TV networks that report news that Trump doesn't like or that is too critical of Trump, where it's they're probably just saying that to appease the base, but it also forces the companies that are the ostensible or potential targets of this, in this case, AI companies, to wonder if should we engineer our AIs to be, put our thumbs a little bit more on the scale so that they come out a little more conservative, a little bit more MAGA, just so that we don't incur the wrath of the Trump administration that clearly expects all of these companies to produce information that just, parrots what Trump wants to believe about how the world works.
And, they're using government contracts, and a lot of these companies need the contracts because there's, hundreds of billions of dollars at stake here. And so, yeah, you could imagine some of these companies, because I don't know if you've noticed, not a lot of institutions around in the United States have been standing up to Trump's threats, and they've taken that for them the path of least resistance has been like, I'll just do what he wants. But it is pretty. I don't know if we're gonna all start relying on fucking AI to give us answers. If the answers are going to be right wing coded now, that's pretty alarming.
And it's concerning because these systems aren't transparent. They're so opaque, partly because there's no way for even the engineers of them to determine how they work, how they arrive at these answers, that we don't really know. And there's no way for us to know how much the companies are or are not trying to engineer the AIs to be more MAGA friendly in order to just avoid incurring Trump's wrath. We just have to kind of wonder at how truthful they decided to be or not to be. And Trump is giving them a big carrot too. He's giving a big handout in terms of loosening all these export restrictions on AI, which are, potentially a pretty big national security concern given how many of them end up in China.
Well, Trump's social media hype man, JD Vance, he was also at the summit and sat down with the all-in besties. He's been thinking hard about how technology might replace human labor, and he's decided he's for it. Let's listen.
We talk to, agricultural industries and others where they say, well, we really need labor. Well, there are a whole host of ways in which you can try to solve those problems. My favorite solution for those problems is automation.
What? How are we automating manual labor?
We are deporting the immigrants who've been here for decades, who are working in this country, doing everything right, and we are replacing them with machines. I wanted to talk about this clip just because you and I have talked about sort of the threats and possibilities, but mostly threats coming from AI for a long time. And I've been thinking a lot about the job displacement lately because I do feel like it's coming very quickly. I think you're starting to see even, kids graduate from college and having a hard time getting jobs, and no one, clearly the AI people don't give a shit. I was telling Austin and Emma I'd listened to this the Theo Von podcast with Sam Altman, which is both hilarious and terrifying all at the same time.
I can't imagine.
But it's like, Theo keeps asking him like, well, what's going to happen? What are we going to do for work and all this kind of stuff? And Sam Altman's like, look, if there's an AI CEO that takes over my job, that's okay with me. I think that's cool because I'll just go I'll do something else like art or music. It's like, oh, isn't that wonderful? We can all be like Sam Altman. And when the AI comes for our jobs, we'll just go do something else.
I know it's very disturbing hearing Silicon Valley people who are like really high on their own supply talk about this, because I do think that this is probably a problem that is, I don't want to say solvable, but like, I think there are things that you can do to kind of incorporate AI in a way that, augments jobs instead of replacing them, or that makes people more productive instead of stealing their job, which, it's a round of disruption that we've been through with technology before. But the people who are working on these models, they have this vision of what AI is going to do, that it's going to replace literally all of the jobs, and that it's going to, make our GDP go up by 100 times so that we can just give everybody, universal basic income forever. That is like, it's a nice vision, but it's so clearly not what's going to come to pass that they're not at all thinking about how this would actually work. There are people who are working on this problem. Economists who are thinking it through. There are some industries that are already looking at ways to, like finance is kind of an interesting one, to incorporate it in ways that will, again, make people more productive instead of making them lose their job. But this is a place where it would be really helpful to have a federal government that is actually thinking about this, and that is actually thinking about how can we convene industry in ways that will guide them. But instead, what we're getting is JD Vance clearly just making bullshit up on the fly. I don't think he even really believes that AI is going to replace immigrant labor, because that's gibberish. That doesn't even make any sense. And I think that this is just JD Vance doing the thing that he often does, of just wanting to like toe the company line on MAGA. And he's also, the one thing that I did think was really interesting about this clip is that he's kind of navigating this like slow motion kind of breakup, kind of coming back together of the MAGA right and the tech right, right? Like immigration has always been the big dividing line between these two camps. Like the all-in boys really believed Trump when he said that he was going to staple a green card to every college degree. And clearly that was never true. Trump is absolutely siding with the MAGA white nationalist right against the tech right on immigration, on labor, and on the workforce. And I think what Vance is trying to do is trying to give the all-in guys who are ultimately just toadies who want to like cow to Trump, give them a very, very thin excuse to do that and to say like, oh, well, Trump has a solution for this. He's going to use AI to replace migrant labor. But I think that you do see murmurings on the other parts of the tech right, as much as I don't like them or agree with them, that they know that this is bullshit. And I think they know that they're getting taken for a ride on Trump. I don't know if it will come to anything, but I am curious. We're going to start seeing spending on the midterm soon. And I'm really curious what is going to happen in the tech world that spent so much for Trump and got really betrayed by him. And it's getting fobbed off by these bullshit excuses from JD Vance that they're going to get what they want.
Although you know what they did get? They got a fuckload of tax breaks in the bill that just passed, including like special Silicon Valley carve-outs and stuff. And so they're getting a lot of what they've asked for on the economic front, minus the tariffs. Although
I don't know, I think that there are a lot of cuts to things like energy, to EVs that I think that they don't like. I mean, I think Elon, as crazy as he is kind of a useful barometer here for the tech right, and I think that the fact that he is still so outside the camp is kind of telling. But I'm sorry, please go on.
I was just gonna say that the JD clip there, it sort of highlighted for me just one of the many reasons it is so it's so problematic to have basically no government, or a government by meme, or just it's all performative politics and whatever, is AI, because this is like a massive shift. And like you said, we've gone through these shifts before, technological shifts before. But first of all, we haven't handled the other ones that well. We are still dealing with the fallout from, post-industrial information economy, job displacement. It's sort of shaped our politics now for the last several decades. We haven't solved it, and it's just made things worse. And now we have basically no political capacity to do anything, let alone try to get some regulations in place, to sit down and actually think about how we make sure that as we move into an AI world that yeah, sure, there'll be new jobs created, I'm guessing, but like, what will those jobs be? How do we help people prepare for those jobs? Like all those questions that a normal functioning government might ask and debate, we're not even trying to debate them. We're just doing a no woke AI executive order and calling it a day.
And they're not even looking out for their own constituents, which is something that you see, you see with AI, although it's hard to say exactly which industries will or will not be impacted, but you see especially with the mass deportations policy, and not just the fact that they are targeting huge numbers of undocumented and legal immigrants who are constituencies that, as we all know, moved a little bit towards Trump in this last election and towards Republicans, but also just the economic impact that mass deportations would have when you're carving out multiple percentage points from your labor force, when you're destroying whole industries, and when you're cutting a bunch of tax revenue out of social services. Because, of course, the Republicans have spent years lying and saying that immigrants are a net drain on social services, when the opposite is true. And they are net paying into it because most of them are working age.
Offline is brought to you by Quince. Why drop a fortune on basics when you don't have to? Quince has the good stuff. High-quality fabrics, classic fits, and lightweight layers for warm weather, all at prices that make sense. Everything I've ordered from Quince has been nothing but solid.
Yeah, don't call it basic.
No.
They're high quality,
I'm
excellent
basic,
items.
not the clothes.
Yeah, thank you.
Quince has closet staples you'll want to reach for over and over, like cozy cashmere and cotton sweaters from just $50, breathable flow-knit polos, and comfortable lightweight pants that somehow work for both weekend hangs and dressed up dinners.
Somehow. Some way.
Who does a dressed up dinner?
Oh, I love to put on a sport coat for dinner.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's usually how we do things. Sometimes a tie. The best part, everything with Quince is half the cost of similar brands by working directly with top artisans and cutting out the middlemen. Quince gives you luxury pieces without the markup. And Quince only works with factories that use safe, ethical, and responsible manufacturing practices and premium fabrics and finishes. I got some t-shirts from there. I got a sweatshirt from there.
Some workout gear, some socks.
shorts earlier this season.
Nice.
Excellent clothing. Keep it classic and cool with long-lasting staples from Quince. Go to quince.com/offline for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. That's QUINCE.com/offline to get free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/offline. Offline is brought to you by DeleteMe. Right now, the headlines are chock full of data breaches and regulatory rollbacks, making us all vulnerable, but you can do something about it. DeleteMe is here to make it easy, quick, and safe to remove your personal data online. Want an easier way to deal with data breaches? Get DeleteMe. The fact is, we're all at risk. How many times have you gotten an email or a letter saying your data has been breached? It's unsettling, but the good news is DeleteMe can help. DeleteMe does all the hard work of wiping you and your family's personal information from data broker websites. DeleteMe knows your privacy is worth protecting. Sign up and provide DeleteMe with exactly what information you want deleted, and their experts take it from there. DeleteMe sends you regular personalized privacy reports showing what info they found, where they found it, and what they removed. DeleteMe isn't just a one-time service. DeleteMe is always working for you, constantly monitoring and removing the personal information you don't want on the internet. I think this is a great service. You know, I've had plenty of personal information online. Everyone does. You're surprised at what you find on there, and that's why DeleteMe is important. It can really help you clean it all up. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for DeleteMe now at a special discount for our listeners. Today, get 20% off your DeleteMe plan by texting offline to 64,000. The only way to get 20% off is to text offline to 64,000. That's offline to 64,000. Message and data rates may apply. All right, let's pivot to the most urgent and consequential discourse of the week. Is it fascist to be hot now? This week, retailer American Eagle announced a new ad campaign with actress Sydney Sweeney that comes with the tagline, "Sydney Sweeney has good genes." A bit of, just barely serviceable wordplay on the jeans she's wearing and the genes she inherited. This being 2025, though, the ad has kicked off a firestorm that's led to angry TikToks, lengthy think pieces, backlash to the angry takes, backlash to the backlash, and a meta discourse about the discourse, which is what you're getting from us today. But first,
here we are.
Here's a sample of the critique.
You guys are complaining about that Sydney Sweeney jeans ad, so I went and saw it.
That's Nazi propaganda. Wow.
If you haven't fully comprehended how bad it is, I need you to open your fucking eyeballs and listen. This is Nazi shit. Pure Nazi shit. Saying that a blonde-haired, blue-eyed girl has good genes is Nazi shit.
Max, are you sorry you agreed to come back for today? Are you regretting your decision?
No, not at all, because next we have joining us to discuss is Sydney Sweeney. Isn't that right?
Here she comes.
Third chair at offline.
Good genes. Good genes.
That would look, if you wanted to replace me in the end with Sydney Sweeney, I would be sad, but I would accept that. I would get it.
So I noticed this for the first time. Well, Austin brought it to my attention. We were thinking about topics, and I'm like, the Sydney Sweeney discourse, what? And then I encountered it on social media, and then I started texting it around, as I do, to various friend groups, and
Sure.
And then Peter Hamby, I sent it to him, and then he tweeted out something that we're now going to talk about on the show. So the circle of content is complete.
The snake eats its own tail. I love it.
So Peter said, the Sydney Sweeney ad backlash is a product of what cultural analysis has become in newsrooms. Writers lazily chewing on whatever is getting attention on TikTok. Grim indeed.
Oh,
and
has it ever been thus?
Because I was like, is this just something that's happening on TikTok and it's here and there? But like, there was a Washington Post piece about it. There was many other pieces about it. Now there was a and then our friend Charlie Warzel has a piece in the Atlantic about the discourse, which now we're talking about this. So, is there an end to this cycle? Why can't we seem to help ourselves here? What is going on?
So I mean, yes, we are all trapped in our phones, including here in the middle of the woods in Woodstock, New York. You're trapped in your phones forever. You're never escaping. I do think there are a couple interesting things going on here beyond the usual, just like bullshit online attentional outrage chasing. Although, by the way, what an incredible hack to go viral to attach your moralizing outrage post to images of an extremely beautiful celebrity. I can't believe I never thought of this. Like, look out for my next viral tweet. Was Pedro Pascal Cecil the Lion's real killer? Was he? Can he prove that he wasn't? We're going to find out. And you'll read about it in the post. So
what does Sydney Sweeney have to say about Epstein's list? Answer is
her
nothing,
silence
but you
is
clicked.
deafening. That's right. When will she finally speak out? No, I mean, I think as we have said many times before, with like kind of silly outrages come up, when people feel scared and powerless because of what is happening in our country and our politics, we naturally look to channel those feelings against some target that feels more easily within reach and feels a little bit less scary to grapple with. Like, it's really hard to fight against the actual white nationalism being violently imposed by ICE on our communities. It's a lot easier to yell at the made up white nationalism supposedly being imposed on our culture by Levi's. It's just like
American Eagle. It is American Eagle.
Oh, is it American Eagle?
It
Okay.
is, yeah,
Sorry to the Levi's Corporation.
Eagle. Is Eagle's Nazi code in Eagle Nazi coded too? Who knows? Maybe.
There's a lot to unpack there.
A lot to unpack.
Something else though that I do think is, it's kind of an interesting aspect to this is that Sydney Sweeney, as you may know, through no fault of her own, has become held up as this kind of symbol by the white nationalist right of embodying this like imagined, past that they are fighting for. The like, this is what they took away from you. I feel pretty bad for her that has happened to her. But I think that part of what's happening is that people are aware of that. People are aware that like the Nazis think Sydney Sweeney is their new flag. And I think they are oversensitive to, but naturally attuned to and ready to be outraged by anything that feels like it's an echo of that. I don't think that's what American Eagle intended. I just think that they were saying, look at how hot this celebrity is. I think that's all the ad was.
You think?
But, but it's just to say that, like, if I can strain to be sympathetic, I do think it's that feeling of, it's like when every time Trump does something really horrible, what do people get outraged about? They get outraged about the, New York Times headline writing up the horrible thing that he did, because it's easier to yell at the New York Times than it is to yell at Trump, because we can't do anything about Trump. Yeah. So I understand the kind of directional thing that's happening.
We did go through all this once before when everyone thought that, like, when the Nazis liked Taylor Swift for a while. And everyone thought that Taylor Swift was sort of right-wing, white nationalist coded. There's two different people. There's the there's the white nationalists who are, maybe claiming Sydney Sweeney as their own. There's also just like the traditional MAGA right, which has been like, oh, the left doesn't like hot women, and we're reclaiming hot women, and so that's another slice of the discourse as well. But
yes,
naturally as a political hack, my mind went to like, the right jumped all over this and was like, oh, the left hates hot women. No, this is the new leftist thing. And I do think it's very, like, if Austin had never said to me, gee, have you heard the Sydney Sweeney discourse? And I somehow was off my phone and never watched it. And I just saw the ad for the first time. I would never have imagined that the ad was controversial. That's just me. And I also imagined that if I had put that in front of, I don't know, a polling sample of 5,000 Americans, the percentage who thought that it was Nazi coded or right wing coded or anything, I don't know. 1%, 2%.
I know we have all become a little bit QAnon in the way that we have all trained ourselves to look for these hidden messages in our culture and these like hidden manifestos and political statements in the most banal places. And like, guys, I don't think that's what's in there. Yeah. I don't think it's a great ad, but I don't think that there's anything weird about saying that Sydney Sweeney is hot or like a Nazi agenda there. But this is something our phones have trained us to do, is to find these like hidden signals and hidden symbols and then to, blow them up online and to say, I found this thing that we all need to now rally either behind or against. So as always, I would rather blame the phones and blame, the TikTok algorithm that incentivizes and rewards and promotes this shit over, whatever random person decided that they read an ad this way. I don't really care if someone reads an ad a different way than me.
It's going to be brutal is when someone asks Chuck Schumer what he thinks about whether Democrats are against Sydney Sweeney being hot.
I can't.
I
Look,
want to see the answer to that one. That's gonna.
We've
be
had
viral.
worse discourse cycles than asking loyalty oaths for. Can you affirm that you agree that Sydney Sweeney is hot?
Let's pivot to some real fascist propaganda. Last week, the official Department of Homeland Security Twitter account tweeted out a photo of a famous painting depicting an allegory for American manifest destiny with a caption that many are considering a Nazi dog whistle. The caption reads, "A heritage to be proud of, a homeland worth defending, John Gatt's American Progress." On X, the everything app where it all happens, people were quick to point out that both H's are capitalized and the caption contains exactly 14 words. If you are not a white nationalist or deranged like us, you might not be aware that 14 words is a rallying cry for white nationalists that was originally attributed to American domestic terrorist David Eden Lane. The double capitalized H's more simply appear to reference the phrase Heil Hitler. Max, what do you think? Too much red string here or just enough?
I mean, just for people who are, God bless you, not familiar with the 14 words or the double H, like that's not just us reading into it. If you are a white nationalist, one of the things that you're supposed to do to kind of signal to other white nationalists is you make references to the number 14, you make references to double H. Like this is an idea that community has generated. But in this specific case, like it's impossible to say, but that is the point often when these kinds of things, like for years and years, the Nazi far right, and including elements in the Trump campaign going back to 2016, have played this game, which they are internally very open about wanting to play and seeking to play, of this invoking Nazism and invoking references to Nazism just openly enough to get a reaction so that people like you and me who know the dog whistles will recognize it, but just deniable enough that they can then ridicule people for reacting to it and saying, oh, how dare you react to this? And it shows that you're humorless, blah, blah, blah. I mean, it's trolling. It's designed to be trolling. And the point is both to kind of frog boil Nazism into our culture by baking in more and more little references to it, but at the same time, to make people look and feel silly for calling that Nazism out. So whether or not this was a deliberately specific instance of that, I don't know, but these examples of them doing this deliberately are so everywhere that I don't feel like I need to give them the benefit of the doubt, if that makes sense.
It does make sense. And, I think Tim Walz at a speech a couple months ago called ICE the Gestapo. And then they've also figured out, like, enough Democrats have called ICE the Gestapo or Trump's Gestapo that they've now cut together some video of all these Democrats saying it. And then they like to put that next to, the worst of the worst criminals that they're deporting. And they're wrapping all of these posts and everything else in like traditional Americana, right? To try to claim American and American history for themselves and their bullshit. Like they're, now that they have $45 fucking billion to hire 10,000 more ICE agents. Just yesterday, they had the Uncle Sam "We Need You" poster that they were all tweeting to get people to join ICE, to apply to ICE, signing bonuses, all the rest, loans forgiven, bullshit. Ugh. It's really, this is sinister. And I don't think it is exactly for the reason you suggest, which is it's not necessarily like there's a bunch of white nationalists at DHS who are trying to send signals to other white nationalists, though probably.
Sure. I think there's some of that.
But more likely, is it trolling? Is it not trolling? Can we get the libs angry? Can we troll the libs? Can we own the libs? Can we make them cry? Right. Can we make them seem hysterical? And then that helps our agenda.
Right. And that's always, again, this is like, you could go back and read openly. This is something that comes very specifically from white nationalist neo-Nazi forums and white nationalist neo-Nazi platforms that were really big in boosting Trump in 2016. Some of these same people are kind of cycling in and out of Trump world and these outlets. So it's not like we're not making up a connection, but the agenda behind this tactic is, as you say, to draw people out, to accuse Trump of being the Gestapo and accuse him of being a Nazi so they can ridicule it. But part of the strategy is very much to do a Gestapo and to do Nazism. Right. That has always been part of the strategy. So I think it's not just like, oh, we want to trick you into calling ICE the Gestapo. And I think it is also, we want to make ICE, the Gestapo. And I'm sure that no one is sitting around in the White House saying, we're going to do Nazi stuff now. But it's not a coincidence that explicitly neo-Nazi messaging strategies are now part of coming out from the Twitter accounts of federal agencies.
Department of Homeland Security, don't we feel safer?
I don't even feel that Homeland is secure.
Offline is brought to you by Amnesty International USA. Right now, the world feels like a mess. A dangerous playbook is unfolding at pretty shocking speed. The Trump administration's anti-rights agenda is fueled by efforts to intimidate, silence, and punish opposition. We know many of our listeners want to do something, and that's where Amnesty International comes in. For over 6 decades, Amnesty International has been on the front lines of protecting human rights from bullies and bad guys. They're aggressively pushing back against Trump's cruel mass deportations. They're working hard to bring home people unlawfully sent to El Salvador, and they're protecting your right to peacefully protest Trump's policies. In short, they're standing up for truth, accountability, and refuse to let Trump-style cruelty become the new normal. Amnesty doesn't accept funding from governments for its research and campaigns. Instead, they rely on people like us to power their work. In a time of increasing misinformation, disinformation, and intimidation, they pride themselves on their independence to hold human rights abusers accountable. Amnesty works diligently to protect human rights whenever and wherever they're denied. Visit amnestyusa.org to help to make your tax-deductible donation today, and your gift will be triple matched. That's amnestyusa.org/help. Offline is brought to you by Hiya. Typical children's vitamins are essentially candy in disguise, packed with sugar, unhealthy chemicals, and unnecessary gummy additives. That's why Hiya developed a superpowered chewable vitamin for kids. Hiya is made with 0 sugar and 0 gummy additives, yet it's delicious and ideal for picky eaters. It addresses the most common nutritional gaps in modern children's diets, offering the comprehensive nourishment that kids require with a taste they enjoy. Formulated with the help of pediatricians and nutritional experts, Hiya is pressed with a blend of 12 organic fruits and veggies, then supercharged with 15 essential vitamins and minerals. It's non-GMO, vegan, dairy-free, allergy-free, gelatin-free, nut-free, everything else you can imagine. Every single batch is third-party tested for heavy metals and microbiomes and in a qualified GMP-compliant lab using scientifically validated testing methods, so you know the product is safe and nutritious. Hiya is designed for kids 2 and up and sent straight to your door, so parents have one less thing to worry about. We have Hiya vitamins. Our kids take them, and Charlie likes them. He thinks they taste good. They don't have sugar in them, and it gets him all the vitamins he doesn't get when he's just eating spaghetti.
And the other day, he solved Goldbach's conjecture, which is that every even number greater than 2 can be written as the sum of 2 primes.
He also demanded that he will only eat dairy-free, vegan, allergy-free, gelatin-free, and nut-free products, and non-GMO.
Smart kid.
He's a stickler about non-GMO stuff. Are you tired of battling with your kids to eat their greens? Hiya now has Kids Daily Greens and Superfoods, a chocolate-flavored greens powder designed specifically for kids, packed with 55-plus whole food ingredients to support brain power development and digestion. Just scoop, shake, and sip with milk or any non-dairy beverage for a delicious and nutritious boost your kids will actually enjoy. We've worked out a special deal with Hiya for their best-selling children's vitamin. Receive 50% off your first order. To claim this deal, you must go to hiyahealth.com/off. This deal is not available on their regular website. Go to hiyahealth.com/off and get your kids the full body nourishment they need to grow into healthy adults. Finally, 404 Media recently reported that T, the viral women's dating safety app, has experienced a series of data breaches exposing the private messages, phone numbers, photos, and even driver's licenses of thousands of the app's users. If you're not familiar, which I was not, T is a fast-growing app designed to help women spot red flags of the men they're trying to date and report bad behavior about men they have dated. T screens all users who join the app, requiring users to submit a photo to prove their gender, and up until 2023, required users to submit a photo ID. Let's talk about the data breach. How was it discovered, and what data has been compromised here?
So apparently when the T app, as you mentioned, would ask users to submit a selfie and a picture of their ID to verify their identity, it would claim that we are just going to hold this image temporarily and then instantly delete it, which is customary for any sort of online ID verification. There are tons of services like this. And in fact, what the T app was apparently doing is, out of laziness, it was just storing all these images on a server in perpetuity that was more or less unprotected. They were just uploading them to basically the equivalent of an unguarded Dropbox account. Users on 4chan who were mad about the T app for reasons we can get into discovered this, grabbed up the data for about 72,000 users, including the selfies that they took, pictures of their driver's licenses and photo IDs, and then uploaded them all on the internet publicly in order to humiliate and punish these 72,000 women for participating in this app they were upset about.
Man, What do you make from what do you make of the strong backlash from men on 4chan to this app?
Yeah. So, I mean, in a lot of ways, this is just a continuation of the same toxic male misogyny that has been like at the center of 4chan culture for literally decades now, especially when it comes to anything related to sex and dating. Like, this is the site that really helped birth a lot of these movements like incels and men rights activists, where Gamergate partly originated. And all comes out of this longstanding belief that, you know, quote unquote, social justice warriors and feminists are seeking to emasculate and control men as part of this like hidden secret war of the genders that's happening, and that men are under attack by women. And so to the extent that the T app was engineered to help women gain a little bit more autonomy and agency in online dating, these men on 4chan took this as part of this larger, you know, attack on their independence as men that needed to be met with coercion and hacking and public harassment of the sort that have been their like favored tools, you know, going back to Gamergate many years ago. But I think what is interesting about this is that mixed up in all of this and separate from the 4chan bullshit that motivated the hack, like the T app has been kind of controversial for a little bit. And it's this kind of interesting double-edged sword to me, where on the one hand, it was designed to help answer this very real problem and need that was created by our collective shift to online dating, right? Like basically everyone meets through the apps now. When we used to date, it was through in-person networks, you know, friends, college, and that would come with this kind of social referral, right, where you would know the person you were going on a date with was like legit and they were okay and they were not going to be a threat to you before you invited them into like your private life, invited them into your home, whatever. Now that we've moved on to the apps, these people are just strangers. We've kind of lost that natural social network safety check. And that is especially dangerous to women. And the T app is kind of meant to replace that. The idea is that like, well, because these aren't people you're meeting in college where you have friends in common who can refer you, instead, we're going to link you up with this network of women who are also on dating apps who have maybe encountered this man in some context, and can tell you like, he's okay, he's legit, or can tell you actually be careful because he's a threat, which is a great idea. But on the other hand, the other end of this is that the app that was meant to answer some of the problems created by the like, you know, online attention app-based economy ended up reproducing some of them too. Like the marketing touts T as primarily built around safety features like background checks and criminal checks. But in practice, what the app encourages, because it's subject to the same attention economy laws as any other smartphone app, is engagement. And that means gossip. And
I was going to say, it reminded me of, remember Lulu? That one?
No.
That was a couple years ago. And that was basically women could anonymously rate men that they dated or hooked up with, and it was public.
Oh, it's so very
that
similar.
was less. It was less safe. T app is much more like these are safety features, whatever. The
right.
Lulu was just like, oh, this guy sucked, or he was or he was lame or whatever. Yeah, it you know, when it is a consequence of online dating that we have Yelp reviews now. Like,
right. And so it's on the one hand, like that is a good impulse to have people be able to flag someone to say this person is a threat. But on the other hand, when the app is designed around engagement, you know, what have we seen rises on any engagement based app is not the most responsible or pro-social behavior, but it's toxic behavior. What's the most toxic? I mean, the app is named for a slang term for gossip. So I really want to be clear. I'm not holding the like women on this app accountable for the ecosystem that the app set up, but I think you are sending mixed messages when your dating safety app is also named for a slang word for gossip. And there's privacy concerns because the app is setting up what's called a shadow profile for men. And shadow profile means it's a social media profile that you have without your knowledge or consent, but that is of you. And I think that there's some legitimate, should men have a chance to consent into this before their image is used by this app? A profile is set up for them where anyone can comment and say anything they want about them. So it's, I think this is a need that needs to be filled. but the economic incentives and the engagement incentives of the app-based economy have created an answer to it that is maybe not necessarily the best one. But I do hope that someone creates another version of this app that is geared maybe a little bit more towards safety and less towards encouraging engagement, and that maybe has some fucking security features instead of putting everyone's driver's licenses on an open server.
Also, imagine if a man started a website where you could just rate the hotness of women on campus. What would happen to that guy? Probably he could end up running one of the largest social media platforms in the world, and has built a nice little bunker for himself in Hawaii.
Right. I mean, there is almost a like turnabout is fair play here, where it's like, okay, we had 20 years of face mash being the basis of our app-based economy, so should women get a turn now? And like, I'm sympathetic to that. I don't think it should just be women's safeties apps who are required to be, pro-social, but it's a symptom of the broader social web encouraging not always the healthiest behavior.
For sure. And apps that are saying, hey, take a picture of yourself. No privacy there. Just letting y'all know, no privacy there.
This was one of the things that really upset me about this is, as you know, I'm a big proponent of, I think that we should all have real identity verification to be on the web. I think that that's in everybody's interest, but fucking T being so careless with everybody's personal data is going to make it a lot harder to set up the next one.
For sure. Max, it was good talking to you, buddy. Thanks for
it was great.
Thanks for doing this. And next time I bring Sydney Sweeney on, I'm gonna think twice and say maybe I should get Max on instead.
You know what? I think we could have both of us on. Great. I would be willing to share the chair with Sydney, so to speak.
Austin is just shaking his head now.
He should. That's correct.
Junie's barking. Austin shaking his head. It's time to go.
We're all upset.
Max, thanks for joining. We've missed you here. Come back again soon.
Anytime, pal.
Some quick housekeeping. We got some really cool news to share. The folks here at Crooked Media and Vote Save America are hosting our first ever Crooked Con. Crooked Con is a chance to join America's smartest organizers and least annoying politicians. We're going to strategize, debate, and commiserate about where we go from here, and hopefully it's up. We will be in Washington, D.C. November 6th and 7th. It's going to be great. We're going to start with a Pod Save America live show at the Warner Theater on Thursday, November 6th, and then on Friday, November 7th, we'll be at the Wharf, joined by some of the most influential names in politics for a full day of conversations, workshops, live pods as we all figure out how to build a big pro-democracy movement that can defeat the rising, it's already risen really, authoritarianism before it is too late. This is going to be really fun. I think it's really important. We're going to have some real honest, good conversations, hopefully productive conversations. Also have a lot of fun. So tickets are on sale now. Head to crookedcon.com for tickets, lineup announcements, and more. That's crookedcon.com. And we have a discount code that you can use to buy your November 7th ticket early. The discount code is Freedom and Content. One word, all caps. Freedom and Content. Discount tickets are limited, so act fast.